Greetings, fellow knife enthusiasts. I've got a few new knives in this week, so I thought I would throw out a few comments. I'll dispense with the specs and the stuff that's obvious when you look at Knife Center or GP Knives, and I'll just toss out my highly valuable opinions. Let's see here. This first one is from Custom Knife Factory. It's also my first Russian design knife and the first of my collection to cut the living crap out of my finger. Comes in their standard pouch. This is the Morff-4. Let's have a look here. Your standard titanium frame lock flipper. The flipping action is great. The pivot design is nice, as is the sculpted clip. Retention's good. Operation on the clip is pretty good. It could be a little easier to get in and out, but it's also very secure. This has a lock bar insert, so there's no stick whatsoever. Standoffs as opposed to a backspacer. The jimping is quite nice and effective. There's so much belly on this blade, I think that's probably why I cut the heck out of my finger. First thing I did when I got it was go to put a bit of a polish on it, and that's how I managed to cut my finger. Pretty happy with the action. It's a fairly plain knife, although that means it's ripe for some pimping, I guess, if you want to do some stuff to it. A lot of people don't like the lanyard hole that visible. I'm kind of mixed on that since I'm not a lanyard guy. The detent is not bad at all. Very smooth action. It came wicked sharp, which is unusual in my experience with most of the knives I own. They come sharp, but they never seem to come really sharp, and they also never come polished. So I always end up using the wicked edge on them to touch things up. This one is full flat grind, good slicer. I like the way the styling carries over from the blade to the pivot. There is carving. There's carving on the inside of the frame to lighten the knife, which seems to be pretty effective. This is, for its size, this is a pretty lightweight knife. Excuse me, I have to go kill my cat. Back in action. The knife does not use through bolts, which means the titanium frame is not threaded. The spacers are. This gives you good symmetry from side to side, and I much prefer that to having dissimilar metals threaded into the titanium. In this case, the only thing threaded into the titanium looks like it's probably the clip. More or less everything else is not threaded into the titanium. It has over travel protection built in, pretty standard these days. This thin spot in the blade, I'm sure, is not a problem, although I find it to be, I don't know, I'm not thrilled about that, but I'm sure it won't be an issue. The stop pin is not hidden, and I don't know, I think when the stop pins are built into the thumb studs and on the outside of the blade, it gives you a more secure lockup. But depending upon what you're going to do with the knife, this shouldn't be any problem at all. I do wonder over time if it's going to be more likely to cause the lockup to creep. Lockup on this thing is, I don't know, 40%. Very good. Not too little, not too much. All in all, I would say that for the price, this is a very good knife. I think it's number 304. I'm not sure how many there are, but I guess it's somewhat limited. The stonewash on the blade is fairly nice. It's still a pretty smooth surface, which means it's going to probably help with the slicing as opposed to the aggressively stonewashed blades on some things. I'd say my biggest problem with this knife is it's fairly plain, but it's also very affordable for a custom knife factory. So in that respect, I guess I can't really complain too much. For me, I think this is going to be a keeper. It's my first, I guess, custom knife factory. I was going to get the Baruka Muscle at some point. I'm now waffling on that. It would be nice if this cutaway for the lock bar were on the inside of the frame. A lot of guys are now doing that, and I tend to prefer that for style reasons. What else can I say? The flipper tab is designed in such a way that it does interfere somewhat with the access to the blade root, which some people I've heard complain about. But this thing has so much belly, there's plenty there to work with. And depending on what you're going to be cutting, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Well, that's about it for my thoughts on this knife. I think I'll move on to my next one and give you my thoughts on that. I hope they're somewhat useful if anyone's considering getting one of these. There are quite a few people I've heard that are happy with these when they have purchased them. Talk to you next time.